start the record. But yeah, Behringer is our resident Syracuse Orangeman here, so he's got the 411 on everything. But is there anything else you want to add, Behringer, before we get going?
No, I'm ready to go whenever you guys are.
All righty. Well, we'll start. Joseph, do you want to be called Joseph, Joe? Which would you like?
You're good with any. Either way, it's fine. Yep.
Sounds good. Well, we will just get started then. Well, we are joined now by Syracuse basketball player Joseph Girard, and he, of course, former high school quarterback as well. Can't forget about his accolades in high school. And Joseph, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. So
we want to just start off. We'll just start off with the big one. NIL started back in July 1st. How has that been a shift from just a few months ago? Because it's not like you are just now starting college. You've been in college for a couple of years now. Now you get to profit off of your name, image, and likeness. How has that been so far? I know you have a brand out.
Yeah, so far it's been pretty great. I mean, it is a lot different. And honestly, at this point, I'd say it's like you haven't thought much of it since it's so early and you're still learning all the, new rules to it and trying to figure out what you can do, what you can't do. And going through compliance and all that kind of stuff and just learning. So I'd say I'm learning just like you guys are about it. Obviously, I've had some sponsorships and stuff like that, gear come out and stuff like that. But I'm still learning just like you guys are. Obviously, it's great for college, I think. But like you guys, I grew up watching college basketball just, assuming that it was normal that they weren't getting paid. And the only time you got paid was when you were pro. But now that's all changing and everything. It's kind of just, you're trying to learn and adapt to a new way of college basketball, which I think is good. I wasn't too much into it. Obviously, like I said, I thought it was normal just not to get paid in college and just play basketball or whatever, get better at it. That's obviously still the main goal. And still, what the coaches are preaching is that you got to stay focused and, try and be your best basketball player, be the best basketball team to win the most games. But it is definitely a new cool little wrinkle into the NCAA.
I think for me, the longest I was pretty anti, from a college athlete getting paid, but I've been more anti from the universities being able to pay the players. Yeah. We had a guy from Sports Illustrated, and he made a great point. Mm-hmm. If I'm at Syracuse there with you, I can go online and just tweet some stuff and post some stuff, and I can get paid some side money. Right. Whereas you, just because you're an athlete, you're hindered that way. And when you start looking at it that way, to me, it makes just great sense of, these guys, they like to have fun too. They like to go out, they want to get a burger at McDonald's or something.
Yeah.
I know your time swamped, so I think it's great the way they've done it. And I think the NCAA has came out with a great idea to have success with it.
I agree. Yeah. It's kind of like you just said, it's like we're always swamped. And what people don't really understand is it's like kind of like a full-time job. Like you guys, out there working and stuff. We're in the gym or we're in the facilities for literally 8 to 10 hours every single day, whether it's working out, going to practice, lifting weights, getting treatment, going to your academic advisors, tutors, stuff like that. They all set up for us. It takes a toll on your body, a toll on your mind. And like I said, it's literally a full-time job. So I think it balances out for sure.
Can you tell us a little bit about your sponsorship? Was it like at 1201, were you getting blown up by everybody? Like, did everybody want you, or how'd that happen?
Yeah, that's actually a good question. What I said it reminded me of was back in high school, like the first day and the first night that you were allowed to get contacted by college coaches because, right at that 12 o'clock thing, you had coaches calling your phone or whatever, whoever it was, whatever team, whatever college. And that's what it kind of reminded me of because right away it started. I think for me personally, it started like a little bit before, like a week before. We as a team had a meeting with our compliance office and the people in there. They told us a lot about what was going to happen. Obviously, they didn't know exactly what was going to happen because nobody really knew. And we still kind of don't know what the ins and outs of it are, but they were trying to give us a heads up on everything that was going to go down, what we couldn't do, stuff like that. And from there was when the Players Trunk that contacted me. Actually, the Players Trunk is run by a former Syracuse head manager and his brother and another man. And they contacted me about doing something right when it came out. And then obviously it took a little bit because you got to wait for it to get passed, first of all, on July 1st, or whatever the date was. And then you got to go through all the contracts and stuff like that, sign all that stuff online. So it takes a little bit to get going. But I'd say that I first started hearing about, possibilities maybe like a week in advance. And then obviously it was forthcoming when it all passed.
Well, so you knew you were meeting with the university before that. Have they been pretty hands-on with you guys and kind of letting you know how to do things, who to get in contact with when you're kind of wondering about this stuff? Because it is new, and like you said, it's changing. Have they been kind of hands-on with advising you guys and making deals and stuff like that?
Yeah, for sure. Pretty much you're able to do what you want out, whatever you want, but it just has to run through our compliance office. So let's say you have some gear company wants to do something with you. You have to go through your compliance office first, send them what you're going to do. And I know, for example, in New York, like all the states have different laws. So Florida, you're allowed to use like, I know in Florida, you're allowed to use like, let's say you go to Florida, you go to University of Florida, you're allowed to use like Florida Gators on your stuff. But here in Syracuse, you're not allowed. In New York, you're not allowed to use like your school's brand or whatever, unless the company's licensed by Syracuse. That is. So I know, for example, like if you came out with gear and there was like Syracuse on it, you had to send that to compliance. They have to see if that person's licensed by Syracuse or whatever it is, and then check all that and then figure out if it's allowed. And if not, you just have to be on it with, let's just say, a white jersey or something with blank, so it's really complicated. But yeah, everything that we do goes through compliance, and they tell us what we can and can't do.
How long does that process take when you send them something like that? So you could get a notice on maybe a Thursday night. How long would it take after you send it to your compliance officer for them to let you know if it's good to go or not?
They've been pretty good about it. Yeah. I know Coach Boeheim was trying to see if they had hired anyone for it. As of right now, it's just the compliance guy that is doing it. But he's going to have to deal with however many college athletes are on the Syracuse campus, because it's for everybody. So I'm sure they're going to hire some people soon to do it. But as of now, they're pretty good about getting back to it, because not to be biased or anything, but the main sports that are going to get something here is like basketball and football. Those are really the only two sports on campus right now anyways. Like all the other sports aren't really here for summer session. We're in summer school, stuff like that. That's us and the football team, and some other sports are starting to come. But as of right now, they've been pretty good about it, getting back to you right away. I mean, you can call them too. So we have a guy who works with the basketball team that you can call and get right back to. So it's pretty good.
Well, now that you mentioned Coach Boeheim, we'll shift over from NIL. What is that like, just playing under Coach Boeheim? Because he is, it's different. You are a player and he's your coach. And so outside you can see things and you can have an opinion of him, but you playing under him, what is that like, playing under a Hall of Fame coach like Boeheim, who's been in this business for so long?
It's unbelievable. That was the biggest thing for me making a decision, is trying to, see like if I wanted to play for a Hall of Famer and learn the most I could. It's actually funny. I knew Coach Boeheim since I've been in 8th grade. I played AAU with Buddy. Used to have camps with him or whatever. And for me personally, I know that one of the main reasons I came here was because of how close I got to Buddy and Coach Boeheim. And that's outside of basketball. Everybody who watches our games gets to see him when he does on the basketball court, gets to see what he does when we're practicing and how Coach Boeheim reacts to certain things. But actually, when you see him off the court and you see him outside of basketball, it's really cool to interact with him. And I think that was the biggest thing I took away, was how smart he is. He it seems like everything he says, even outside of basketball, comes true. And so learning from him on the basketball court, though, is a whole nother thing. He knows the ins and outs of the game. He's been around it so long. And you can even go to his Olympic days. I know walking through his house, you just see the Olympic gold medals and all that kind of stuff, and you're just amazed by it. So honestly, right now, I haven't thought too much of it. Obviously, I'm really happy with what I'm doing. I'm really happy listening to him. But I'm sure down the road, when I get older, I'll realize how much of how appreciative I was of it, for sure.
Obviously, I'm the big Syracuse guy down here in Alabama. So I go to Georgia Tech every time you guys are there, just because, it's the closest place to me. Yeah. And I'll never forget the very first time I saw him get off the team bus. I was intimidated just to say hello to him. Like, I'm wearing an orange jersey in Atlanta, Georgia, and I'm still just like, man, yeah. I'm scared to talk to him. Yeah. Chuck can probably speak from some more experiences because he's been in the interviews a few times. But that persona he lets on in the game and on the court, how much different is he outside of that?
Oh, he's way different. It's funny to say it, but he's funny. Like he makes jokes and stuff like that, but he's actually like
typical old guy.
Yeah. He's not the grumpy guy that everybody always says he is. He's not. He he still golfs. Like he's upbeat and everything like that. So he's all with it, and he's like I say, he's just fun to be around. He's funny, he makes jokes. You could talk sports with him, you could talk anything with him, and he's down to do it. So he's really cool.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Well, you mentioned playing AAU with Buddy. So is that to say that you're not, when it comes to the teams that are going to probably be in the locker room, are you not supportive of Jimmy Boeheim Jr. coming in now? Because is there going to be some drama there between everybody? Because now there's that.
Nah, Jimmy's been great, actually. So we've been here for a month. Obviously, I knew Jimmy before, too. So I've known Jimmy for a long time. Played against Jimmy my freshman year, actually, when he was at Cornell. So I've known Jimmy for a long time. It's really cool to see that he's got both his sons here playing for him. It's something that you couldn't even, fairy tale it or write it in a book or something that you even imagine. But for it to come true is really cool for them. And honestly, nobody's really talked about him much here just because we're all focused on the same thing and we're all focused on winning, getting better and stuff like that. So it's been really cool to see because, I know that their focus is, on the same thing. Obviously, I think when the season comes around, it'll be pretty hectic with it in the beginning of it, but as long as we're winning, it'll fizzle out and we'll all be focused for sure.
But you keep mentioning that y'all are there during the summer. A lot of people don't realize that you are there during the summer. As an athlete, you're not just there during the school, you're not there during the season. So tell us a little bit about what goes on in the summer for you guys.
Yeah, good question. So there's actually 2 summer sessions. There's summer session 1, summer session 2. And me, my freshman year, I was only making it to summer session 2 because I went to a public school in New York State, which ends a lot later than other states and stuff like that. So I remember my freshman year, I graduated high school. Graduation was on June 29th, and I had to be out to Syracuse June 30th for summer session 2. And then obviously, you take your classes, you work out. And then my sophomore year, obviously everything was canceled in the summer because of COVID. But this is the first year that I'm actually really here for both summer sessions. So basically, you could take 1 or 2 classes each session. So I'm taking one, right, or you could split it up and do 1 and 1. And so now I'm taking 1 class right now in the summer session 1, and you take it online. Usually I think it's in person, but it's online still right now. And you take the class. But every morning we go to breakfast at the Mello Center. We work out with our position coach or have a little team, workout or practice thing. And then in the afternoon, you have your academics. So it's whether you got to go to see our academic advisor or have a tutor, or you just have your class or asynchronous class and you got to get your work done. And then the afternoon is free. For a lot of us, we go golfing. But pretty much every day in the summer, workout, class, golf.
Are you pretty good golfer?
What's that?
Are you a pretty good golfer? You getting better?
Getting better. Actually, I just picked it up in quarantine last year. I'm getting a lot better, though. So I've played a lot the past year, I guess, and I've gotten pretty good.
Who's the best golfer on the team?
Right now, I think it's definitely probably a battle between Jimmy and Buddy. I'll say me just to piss them off, but they've played a lot. They played their whole lives or whatever. Coach used to actually be a golf coach, which nobody really knows about, and golf's still all the time. So they're pretty good, but I'm right behind them, I think.
You're gaining.
We have that in common. We have that in common. I'm the best golfer out of the Middle Dimes crew.
Yeah, there you go.
By far.
Yeah.
It don't take much.
I mean, he golfs twice a week, and we don't golf.
Be a good golfer here either. I think us 3 and maybe 2 others started golfing.
That's cool. Touching back on your summer workouts, what would you say coming from high school? Because as a high school athlete, did you play anything in the spring, or was you just football, basketball?
Football and basketball. Up until 9th grade, I played baseball. I played high school baseball when I was in 8th grade, but after that, when I was playing AAU and we had to travel literally every weekend to Texas, California, Atlanta, all that kind of stuff, I would miss baseball games and baseball practices. And one of the rules is like you got to sit out a certain amount of innings if you miss the previous practice or previous game. So I was just like, I'm done with it.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't worth it. And it was better to focus on basketball at that time too.
So having both of those sports, obviously your high school daily routine is different from your college. What would you say has been the hardest part of transitioning from high school multi-athlete to Division I starting point guard?
I'd say, I don't know. I think it was better for me because this is the first time that I've really had a whole summer to play basketball, because previous summers I was playing football. I was throwing the football instead of shooting a basketball. And this is the first time really that I've been able to, work on my game all year round, rather than working on football for 4 to 5 months and then basketball probably 7 months of the year. Now I'm going to do it 12. So it's pretty good. Obviously, the biggest transition I think for me though was, like I said, this is a job. Obviously, in high school, I had to go to class from not 8:30 in the morning to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, then go to high school practice, and you're pretty much it's 6 o'clock by then. So now you got to go to the gym from 8 in the morning to 8 at night. So it's a lot different, I think, and just making sure that your mind's locked in for all whatever 8 to 10 hours it is every single day.
Well, from what we heard, you averaged 50 points a game in high school, so you're pretty locked in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. That's definitely.
How tough of a decision was that in high school? You weren't just some slouch at quarterback in high school, so you could play and you had some offers, according to the research I did. And so, how big of a decision was that to make that shift and just fully commit to basketball like that?
Yeah, it was hard. I mean, I think ever starting when I got my first basketball offer in 8th grade, people started doing he's going to be done playing football, this, that, and the other thing. And in my mind, I never really wanted to stop. I was something that I love. I love football almost as much as I love basketball. My cousins that graduated, people don't know this, but I graduated with like 12 cousins, and we all played sports together. And they all played football. So yeah, all my friends and family, I didn't want to let those guys down, So it was like my freshman year, I played, varsity football, whatever, and I started getting pretty good at it. More known for football as well as basketball, and then started winning some state championships and then getting some offers, like you said. I had Penn State call me, Indiana call me, Wake Forest, and a lot of pretty much high major schools to go play football for them, and also some of them wanted me to play both. So it was something that it was hard for me to give up. But I think after my junior year, I think I knew pretty well that I was going to go play basketball for sure. I still wanted to play football my senior year, and I did. But I definitely knew after my junior year that I was going to play basketball for sure.
You said you and Buddy played AAU together. Does that mean, did you grow up a Syracuse fan?
It's funny. My dad played at Lemoyne in the 80s, 90s, and it was for John Beeline when he was there.
Oh, that's awesome. That is awesome.
So growing up, not that I was so much of a fan of a team, but when he was at West Virginia, we would get tickets to go to the Big East tournament when they played at Madison Square Garden. And then when he was at Michigan, we get, stuff like that to go over there. And then it was funny, when I got old enough, he started actually recruiting me, Coach Beeline, when he was at Michigan. So
awesome.
I'd say I definitely watched Syracuse growing up because it was always on TV, being local TV or whatever, growing up in, near Albany and Lake George. But I say if I had to say if I was a fan of somebody, it was wherever Coach Beeline was, just because that's all I knew.
That's awesome.
Okay, hold on a second. Wait, hold on then.
Yeah.
So wait, you are West.
He didn't say West Virginia fan, Chuck. He's not a West Virginia fan.
Then why did you have to go
fan.
4 of 8 for 3-pointers against us in the tournament? I mean, come on now. You could have missed a couple.
Circle, right?
Yeah, really. Okay, well, that's a perfect segue into my. This is just I have to ask it.
Yeah.
How is that you get to? There was that hype beforehand. It is a Big East. It was always a Big East rivalry, even though Syracuse always seemed to have West Virginia's number. How was that? There has to be a little bit of a bump in intensity, even though it had been a few years since West Virginia and Syracuse had played, especially since the Big East days. How was that? Just leading up to that and knowing the pressure, and then the fan base knowing what that meant, that matchup.
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of history in that game. Even so, just having it be two legendary coaches with Coach Boeheim and Coach Huggins. And I mean, the intensity was just insane because it was, the March Madness, and there was a chance to go to the Sweet 16. But yeah, the old Big East rivalry definitely grew something to it. And they played in the Big 12 this year, which was quote unquote the best conference in the country this year. A lot of people said so. It just rose that again because ACC teams always want to be the best and stuff like that. So there was a lot of factors I think that made the intensity at a high level for that game for sure.
Well, that's interesting that you say that, because um, what do you guys, when you're playing, do you focus on that when it says, oh, last year it was the Big 12, Big 10, this year, all the time it's ACC. Do you guys look at that when it's conference wise and kind of take that and into consideration, knowing, oh, we do play in the best conference, or do you always think it's the best conference no matter what?
Honestly, I'd say I always think it's the best conference no matter what.
I knew you'd say that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not even close. It's not
I
even
knew
close.
you'd say that. You couldn't give it a break.
lately that it's the Big 10 and last year was the Big 12. But if you look at, I think this it's always seems like an ACC team's moving on in the tournament pretty far, and it just goes to show how hard each year is. In the conference play, you're playing the same teams. Obviously every conference does it, but you're playing the same team 2 to 3 times a year potentially with the conference tournament. So they always know what you're doing, and especially with us playing a zone. The teams are able to focus on that and scout that and see it each and every year. I think that's what helps us in the tournament. West Virginia probably didn't see a 2-3 zone all year. San Diego State probably didn't see a 2-3 zone all year. But that's because they don't play in the ACC and they don't get to play against us. So it's pretty cool pretty neat to see how different teams react to it when we get in March.
Yeah.
So I know this was your first March Madness this year in Indy, and I know being in COVID probably restricted as far as I know y'all couldn't do much in between the games. But how did you like the whole tournament being in one city this year?
It was cool. I think it would have been a little more cool if we were able to travel, because I think after our West Virginia game, we would have been able to come home to Syracuse and have, a big thing, because I saw on Twitter and all social media is how crazy it was in Syracuse after we won that game. And I think it would have been cool to experience that and see what was going on in the city. But I mean, it was cool anyways. And I think the troubling part for everybody who was in the tournament was that you were isolated. You were in a bubble for real, because the hotel a walkway attached to the practice gyms, to the facilities, to the weight rooms, all that. We didn't breathe fresh air for like 3 weeks. The only time that we did was when we were walking to the bus, and like a 30-minute thing at one of the AAA stadiums for one day. So it was cool, but I mean, it was definitely something that we're going to be able to say nobody else experienced, which is also cool. But I think it would have been cool to hopefully we'll do that this year, experience a regular March Madness. But that's definitely something that nobody else can say they did.
I selfishly enjoyed it. I mean, I enjoyed coming up. I know I got to go to Hinkle and watch you guys upset San Diego State, and I got to see Chuck a little bit in town. So it was, as a fan, it was almost a dream come true having everything right there. But I could see it from y'all's point where it'd be just a little bit irritating and being able to miss out on a few things you might normally get to do.
How much of that is when you look at this season, and I know you can't ever say last season was, oh, well, it's COVID. And so, a lot of people want to keep saying it's an asterisk, but now you look at this season and just, you're always excited for a new season, but how much more for this year, because the restrictions are being lifted in a lot of schools. And I know you guys get to play in the Carrier Dome, which is massive. Just how much are you guys just really, really ramping up to the season in the fall?
Oh, it's going to be so much more fun. I mean, personally, a lot of the reason that people come to Syracuse is to play in the Dome, because there's 35,000 people there to watch you play. And to honestly play in there with 0 fans, it's unreal. Like, you're looking at a crowd of bleachers. There's nobody there. And usually you don't see a bleacher at all because the seats are filled. So it was completely different, and it's definitely something to look forward to next year. Even going on the road. On the road was different. A lot of times when you go on the road, it's fun to, hear what the other crowds are saying, see what the other crowds are doing, and, try and shut them up. But this year you didn't even get to do that. You just got there and it was empty. It's just, not that it was depressing, but it was kind of like, this is like a practice almost.
No, I could definitely say being there, covering games, it was different. And I know West Virginia took a lot longer to start letting people in other than family members. So it was different, and I can't imagine you guys get to play on the court. So, yeah. But I think, Coach, if you have a final question, I know you got to get one out, right? Come on, Coach.
Yeah, I got one last one. So, at what was the moment when you finally just committed to Syracuse and you knew that was the place for you? Was it coming to a game? Was it relationship with Mac or one of the assistants, or what was that moment like?
Definitely the relationship, Coach G-Mac. Like I said, the relationship I had with Coach Boeheim and Buddy, and Mrs. Boeheim actually became really good friends with my mom throughout AAU. But I think the turning point was during my senior season of football. Right when I was about to, I had a top 6 of Syracuse, Duke, Michigan, Notre Dame, Penn State, and Boston College. But so that came out like I want to say 2 or 3 months before I committed, and then during my football season, Coach Boeheim and GMAC, like 3 or 4 weeks leading up to my commitment, Coach Boeheim and GMAC came 3 straight weeks. Well, once they came and watched a football game, another time they had dinner at my house with me and my family, and then another time they came to watch practice. So it was really cool, and I think that was the turning point, is to see how dedicated they were to me and show how much love they showed to me. That was definitely when I think I was ready to be an Orangeman.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I'm glad we got you. I remember when the hype was up, and
Yes,
I remember when you signed, I was like, oh yeah,
yes, sir.
we got a bucket getter.
Yes, sir.
Well, Joseph, we really appreciate this. Was fantastic. This has been, you're now a recurring guest. You're welcome back anytime. We're gonna have to get you some gear up there in Syracuse so you can wear it around up there. And I hope to never see you again in person, because that means then we'll be playing you. No, but all seriousness. So thank you so much. We really appreciated this. This was incredible to talk to you and get to meet you and just talk about whatever.
Of course. Thanks, guys, and always go Orange for sure.
Good luck. Hopefully we'll have you on to celebrate a natty after this year.
Appreciate it.